Krystal, what are you taking a look at today?
Well, join me, if you will, for a little trip down memory lane. It was way back in the fall of 2019, a whole 2 years ago, and now canceled star Ellen DeGeneres had just gone to a Dallas Cowboys game where she sat in the owner's box alongside some notable luminaries.
Look, I took a video of who was next to me. So that was Portia, and that was Charlotte Jones, Portia was talking to, and George W. Bush, and then in front of us was the tallest man in the world. People were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. But a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again.
Faith in America again. She went on quite a bit more about how, yes, she's friends with George W. Bush because she should be nice to people who have different views. Something I obviously agree with, given my partnership here with Sagar. But Sagar did not lie us into war, commit tremendous atrocities, and destabilize an entire region, costing hundreds of thousands of lives and untold trillions of dollars. No. Casually palling around with terrorists like George W. Bush and whitewashing their crimes is something else entirely. Wasn't just Ellen, though. Don't want to just pick on her. In the Trump era, the entire liberal media echo chamber got in on W rehabilitation. Pundits fawned over the adorable relationship between Michelle Obama and Bush. Remember this photo of the two in a fond embrace? Michelle is standing behind Bush, wrapping her arms around him as he leans into her, a smile on his face, eyes half closed in contentment. Bush was routinely held up as good and moral and decent. Why? Well, he was a useful foil for Donald Trump. Praising Bush allowed neoliberals and never-Trump grifters the chance to add a bipartisan gloss to their opposition to Trump. An opposition that was rooted not in the corruption and assault on the working class that should have been the roots of a genuine Trump opposition, but in his uncouth manners and the fact that he brought in his own band of grifters rather than relying on the existing grifting class. Although, in fairness, he did ultimately incorporate some of the existing grifting class as well, but I digress there. So, the media needed Trump to be a unique evil for their ratings, and Democrats needed Trump to be a unique evil so that no one would have time to ask how the hell they could have lost to such a ridiculous person. He couldn't be another in a line of elitist, morally repugnant criminals because that would be a less gripping story, and because it wouldn't allow the previous Republican grifter class a chance to write their books and score their pundit contracts. Thanks to this media whitewashing project, neocons like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are wildly popular with the Democratic base. Shameless warmongers like Bill Krystal have been elevated as sage voices of decency and democracy. George W. Bush propagandist Nicole Wallace hosts 2 hours on MSNBC. And many of the military men directly complicit in neocon lies can be found either as cable news contributors or as frequent esteemed guests and pundits. This project of liberal elite history revision was so complete that Colin Powell had a plum speaking slot at the DNC, for crying out loud. Which leads me to my second point. No one benefited from this media environment more than Joe Biden. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. Biden won because Democratic primary voters were persuaded to abandon any policy desires in favor of just beating Trump. And the people who made the case that defeating Trump should be the only concern and that Biden was the guy to do it were exactly the kind of Bush-era leftovers that were elevated as resistance heroes in the Trump era. It was a 1-2 punch here. Bush-era generals and CIA ghouls helped to convince the Democratic base that Trump was, in fact, the unique evil. Then, those rehab neocon pundits, desperate to defeat Bernie and the left, and left with no other options, convinced voters that only Biden could defeat Trump. They were joined in their mission by their new besties in the Democratic establishment in all of this. Just think about it. Even though he was the former vice president, Biden on his own was not even coming close to winning. He was losing not only to Bernie, but to Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar. The man had no money, He barely campaigned, and when he did campaign, his advisors regretted letting him leave the basement. The whole project was wildly successful at manufacturing consent for the Democratic establishment at a time when voters were routinely telling pollsters that from a policy perspective, they really preferred something quite different. But there's a big cost to be paid for embracing and elevating these voices, and that bill has now come due. That cost is being paid by Biden and frankly by all of us right now in building support for his domestic agenda as deficit scaremongering and welfare queen politics creep back into the center of discourse. And that cost is really being paid most clearly right now in the reaction to his exit from Afghanistan. Leaving Afghanistan is what the American people have wanted for years. And it is, in fact, what Biden promised on the campaign trail. But the hawks who backed him, they didn't think he really had the stones to do it. And they are melting down over the fact that he ultimately did. They can't believe that their grand imperialist project, which showered billions on the defense industry, is all over. In any sane world, the liars, criminals, and thugs who got us into this mess should be the last people that we hear from right now. Their panel comments, op-eds, and tweets should be laughed at if they ever even see the light of day. Instead, these people, aided by their liberal elite friends, have wormed their way back into the center of public discourse where they can make the case that we should stay in Afghanistan forever. After 4 years of reframing George W. Bush as a cuddly grandpa who likes to paint, good luck trying to remind everyone that this dude, in actuality, was pure evil. And Sagar, we warned of this.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.